Hey there, YouTubers. All right, so we're going to do a BIOS update for the Gigabyte B560 DS3H AC. This is the full ATX motherboard, not the micro ATX one, okay? So let's go ahead and find it. Now I'm using this really crappy Comica stand for a cell phone. I actually have to hold it with one hand because it wants to basically drop down. So I guess that's the way it goes, right? I did get this for free. Sometimes when you get free stuff, it's junk, and this is a perfect example. All right, so what did I do? I typed in Gigabyte DS3H AC, and we've got this link here, and I'm just going to move the cell phone closer. Normally I use a capture card. It's a lot easier. This is actually kind of painful doing it this way. Then we're going to go over here to support. All right. Zoom back out. Over here we're looking for downloads, which we have, and we want BIOS. All right. Now, normally it'd be a good idea to find out which BIOS you have before you do this. Lots of ways to do it. In a moment you'll see when I go into the BIOS, I'll point out where the actual BIOS version is. Now, one thing you want to do is read the descriptions of all the different BIOS. See if you have to do one before you can do the last one. And so we're going to be putting in F6 here, okay? So I'm going to come over here to download, and up here you can see it has downloaded. I think I have this plugged in with Ethernet, so it's relatively quick. And I come over here, there's the file. We're going to right click on it, extract all. Now one thing folks you'll want to do before you do this is verify the weather's good, which we have some questionable weather here, but I'm going to proceed. You could actually brick your motherboard if the power goes out, okay? So you want to make sure there's no hurricanes, typhoons, tornadoes, windstorms, that kind of stuff that could cause the power to go out. So getting back to the motherboard, this is a motherboard that's kind of comes with certain pre-builts, and I actually bought it off of eBay used. It's not a motherboard that I believe you can purchase anywhere except for eBay or maybe Craigslist or secondhand somewhere. All right, so we're going to take this file that we extracted, and I have inserted a thumb drive. Okay, so there it is, and not a half bad idea, folks, to have a completely clean thumb drive. All right, now let's right click on this. That's what I have formatted to NTFS. All right, now at this point, folks, we can reboot the computer. So I'm going to go, this is Windows 10. If you had Windows 11, you'd be over here somewhere, right? But we're going to restart the computer. All right, now I want to be over here jamming on the delete key in a moment. Okay, so sometimes these things are fast, depending on your computer, your drives, other crap, CPU. Okay, so it's coming up right now, and that was actually the time to do it. All right, folks, so we're in our BIOS, and you see down here, advanced mode, there's a Q flash there. Normally, actually, when you come in for the first time, you're going to end up in easy mode, okay? This is really what most of you are going to see, so let's do it like we see it here. We see Q flash over here. We're going to go here, click on that, or you can click at F8. We want to update BIOS, so I'm going to go ahead and click there. Now, we have all kinds of old crap on here, right? I should have deleted this. But here's our BIOS folder. And there is the BIOS file, F6. Oh, before we do that, so you see right there, there's your BIOS version F2, so it's an older one. And there was another place to see that inside the BIOS. So let's go ahead and click the next button. Are you sure you want to update BIOS? Double check everything. And I'm going to assume at this point, folks, you know why you're updating your BIOS, right? We'll talk about that as the BIOS updates. Sure want to update BIOS? Yes. And now I'm going to back away, right? I don't want to touch anything unless it asks me to. Looks like sometimes when you do this, there isn't another step. So I'm going to go ahead and press start. All right, now I'm going to back away. So if you are updating your BIOS, there's a lot of reasons to do it. One, you might be having some issues with your hardware. There may be some advanced security stuff that has been released that you want for your computer. You may go from, not in this case, but in other cases, you might be going to the next generation of CPU, or there may have been a CPU that was not covered originally with your motherboard's original BIOS, right? So somewhere in there they came up with the i9-10850K, right? If you remember that, if you had a B Z490, you'd have to update the BIOS. There's been some additional Pentiums that had come out in Celerons, so updating the BIOS wasn't such a bad thing for those. Sometimes they'll add additional RAM compatibility, but there's a lot of different reasons to update the BIOS, and understanding why and when to do it. I actually like to update the BIOS right off the bat when I first get the motherboard. Let's say I usually buy my stuff through Amazon, Newegg, but I would update the BIOS right away while I can still return it if it does crap out, right? Because your Amazon Prime member, they really don't give you crap if you return something. So now, have I ever bricked a motherboard? I think a long time ago I did. And it's been a while, so we haven't had any real problems. Now, I have dropped a Phillips head screwdriver onto the motherboard and wrecked a motherboard that way. So there are other ways to ruin a motherboard. So you can see right now 87%, and this video has taken 8 minutes, right? So we're going to be done here in a couple more minutes most likely. So you can see you can get this done in basically about 10 minutes. Having the USB thumb drive ready to go definitely helps. And hey, let me apologize ahead of time for the camera angles. I know they're not the best, you know, and I'm not even recording in 4K for you guys. I like to give you guys better quality video. All of my capture cards, I actually have 4 capture cards, all cheap Chinese ones. They have all died. Okay, I had bought some really nice ones over the years. Those have died. So I abuse capture cards, it appears, which is unfortunate because that is the way to do these kind of videos. So I will eventually buy another good one. Just a matter of time. Alright, so it's rebooting. It may reboot a couple times. Still, you do not want to touch your computer, okay? You will know when it's good to go because it should hopefully boot back to Windows. Now, folks, one thing we didn't talk about in the BIOS, if you have an issue where it does not boot back up, you may have to make some adjustments inside of the BIOS as far as your drives go, okay? It's not uncommon for that to happen. And you can see computer, whoop, you didn't see that, but the computer's reboot again. So we may actually be having some problems here, folks. The fact that it is still clinging for, I don't want to say dear life here, but, oh, here we go, finally. So sometimes when you see a computer reboot that many times, it usually means that it's not going to boot to Windows and that there's something else wrong. All right, so XMP disabled. So that can happen to you folks. I'm going to turn my profile back on. Hopefully it will run at 3200 megahertz. Now, the other issue, let's see if we can troubleshoot why it did not go straight into Windows. And there's no other option for a drive here. So we'll see. Maybe it's good to go. Save and exit. Save and exit. Yes. And hopefully we'll end up on Windows this time. And voila, we're back in the BIOS again. So undoubtedly something else changed under boot. CSM support. There aren't a whole lot of things you can do in here, folks. I usually actually don't have these problems, so at worst we either try another drive or we take that drive and reinstall Windows on it. So you saw the setting that I changed. Hopefully you don't have to do that. It worked. Got me back to Windows. I did end up having to do a hard reboot because it came up as something odd. But yeah, we're back to Windows. Hey, thanks for checking out the video. Please like, please subscribe. Thank you.